Right, so for today's video, we actually have an update on a situation we spoke about a week ago at this point. And it was a situation involving two companies, the first one being BashCo, as we can see right here, and the second one being Bashify, which we can see right here. Now, in case you haven't seen that video or you need a little bit of a refresher, I'm going to do a very fast recap, but I will say that there's going to be some key details missed out because obviously I've made a full video on it previously, so if you want like a full recap, I'd recommend watching that first. But the quick recap goes like this. So two brands, Bashify, BashCo, they both do events, so not only is the name similar, but the thing they actually do in their business is similar. And recently we were all made aware that Bashify is suing BashCo, and the reason why we were made aware of that is because one of the owners of BashCo, called Sierra Channel Self, I believe it's pronounced, actually uploaded a video talking about it. Now the actual video itself is kind of promoting a new brand that they're launching. It was a Christian like clothing line, but also in this video they do talk about this lawsuit.
Our valley began 2 years ago on Christmas Eve. We had a knock on the door and we were served lawsuit papers for a copyright lawsuit from people we had never met. It was a really hard pill to swallow. It was for a company that did event production that had been in business for 10 years. We just started questioning why. It's a very specific lawsuit, so it's very expensive. Probably within the 2 years, $500,000 in bills.
So yeah, after this video was posted, obviously people are asking the question, like, who is this brand that is suing them? And it's been going on for years at this point, like they want some more information. Well, it was at this point that one of the owners of Bashify, called Chris Giglio, actually uploaded a video talking about this himself. Now there's a lot of details in this video that we did speak about in the previous video, so again, if you want all the details, I'd recommend watching there. But a few points that are worth noting right here for the rest of the video to make sense, is that he starts off by saying that Sierra actually sent a cease and desist to Bashify first. It wasn't like Bashify just came out of nowhere and sued BashCo.
Bree and I first became aware of BashCo in January of 22 when Sierra commented on one of our Bashify TikToks. She claimed that we were copying the term Bashbox from her. Spoiler alert, 3 years after that comment, we still have no evidence of that product. Anyways, I decided to DM her to see if we could settle this privately, because nowhere on Google or the USPTO or just anywhere else could I find any evidence of what she was claiming, including the trademark that she claimed that she had. And by the way, I've uploaded all of the supporting documents at a link in my bio. The conversation ended with Sierra saying, "You're gonna hear from my lawyer," and that was that.
Yeah, so after Sierra said, "You're gonna hear from my lawyers," there was like this moment where they actually met in public, conversation didn't go well, and Bashify ended up receiving a cease and desist. The cease and desist was a bit confusing because in the messages previously, it seemed like Sierra's problem was the fact that they were both creating a product called Bashbox, and Sierra is saying that she had the trademark for that. The cease and desist doesn't mention anything to do with that. It's more just talking about the fact that the names are similar and people could confuse them. Chris then goes on to explain that when he spoke to his lawyer about this, he realized that he wasn't infringing BashCo's IP, but in fact they could be infringing Bashify's IP. And then there was even more details where Chris had been told that Sierra has been trying to defame Bashify for quite some time.
After looking everything over, we realized that not only were her accusations that we were misusing the word bash or copying bash boxes or just anything that she was saying baseless, we had our own legitimate claims that she was infringing on our IP. I feel like this is a good time to add that there are so many businesses using the word bash in their name. Here in Texas, there are over 200 registered businesses using that. Around this time, we also met a former employee of BashCo's, and she shared hard evidence that Sierra and BashCo were defaming and disparaging Bashify. That included a text message that Sierra sent that she wanted to, quote, blacklist Bashify.
But now that leads us to the update, because we have two new videos from Chris going into more details about what is actually happening here and what has happened since the last videos we spoke about.
1 week ago, I found out that the business that we're suing came out with a very false version of what's going on, and I got on here to set the record straight. Last time I was responding directly to their claims, but today I'm gonna tell you what's going on.
He also makes a point that the only reason why this is public in the first place because Sierra made that video with what he is saying are false statements.
And even though lawsuits are already public, this thing became really public when they launched their Christian apparel brand, His Daily Bread Co. And they did it with a testimony video that made numerous false claims about this lawsuit, including saying that they didn't even know who we were, despite the fact that they had been threatening to sue us for almost a year before we filed. Not sure how their lawyer signed off on that video, or why they thought they could get away with it, but hey, I guess they've gotten away with worse in this case.
Chris then goes on to say that since his last video, a bunch of people have reached out with like their own experiences with Sierra. There's a bunch of them on screen right now. Obviously, these are like anonymous messages. They wouldn't have been sent anonymously, but on the screen for us now, we can't see like who they're from or anything like that. but a lot of them are basically just saying that they have had similar experiences with Sierra and don't think she is particularly a nice person. Now, I do just want to make it very clear, we don't have proof of these specific messages. Like I said, they're anonymous to us, but these are just the messages that Chris showed in his video. Chris then goes on to say that he wants to go through BashCo's filing and kind of debunk some of the stuff that they've said.
While they have stayed quiet on this whole matter, I'm going to use their words in their filings to tell you what they think we did so wrong, and then debunk it. According to them, we took the Bash name, moved to Dallas, copied their website, and traded on their name.
Okay, actually, let's have a read through this here. More than 6 years after Bash started business using BashCo and event's name, on November 10th, 2021, the Styled Co changed its name from the Styled Co to Bashify. Bashify is the lead plaintiff in this lawsuit, starting with taking the Bash name, then moving to Dallas, then using the Bash website design, then leading third parties to believe they are Bash. Bashify has taken extraordinary steps to cause confusion and to steal the name, vendors, clients, look and ideas of Bash. This lawsuit is but another chapter in plaintiff's campaign of harassment. Yeah, so in a nutshell, BashCo are basically saying Bashify are trying to claim that they are us, or confuse people into believing that they are us, so they can piggyback off the success that we've had to help their business. There was a lot of comments in my last video talking about this whole, like, name thing, you know, because the names are similar, BashCo, Bashify, but, like, the word Bash for event, that's another word for, like, a party, right? It's not exactly the most unique name in the world. But let's carry on with Chris's video where he goes through the points here.
There are over 900 registered businesses just in Texas that have the word Bash in them, some of which they follow on their social media. It's not a very special word. What's even worse for their argument is that the term Bash is descriptive. It's like calling your window shining business Window Shiners Co. Descriptive terms are what lawyers and the USPTO considered weak trademarks. Strong trademarks, on the other hand, are considered suggestive rather than directly descriptive. So for example, Shopify and Spotify have strong trademarks. So does Bashify. They're suggesting what they do, not telling you directly. So not only is the name BashCo not very special at all, it grants them almost no claim to the word Bash.
Chris then goes on to explain why they moved to Dallas and says that it wasn't anything to do with BashCo.
Next up, moving to Dallas. Since the pandemic, over 500,000 people have moved to Dallas. For us personally, we wanted to get out of the sunlight-deprived Seattle gloom, and we wanted to move to a more hospitable climate for our events business. We actually narrowed our final choices down to Austin and Dallas, and ended up deciding that Dallas was just going to be a better fit for our family. We even took a trip here to help us in making that decision before we had ever heard from Sierra. Honestly, it's kind of terrifying that someone would think that we moved our family halfway across the country just to copy them or to be closer to them. It's even more disturbing that they put it in court documents.
And then finally goes on to respond to the claims that they were trying to confuse people by using a similar name.
Finally, the idea that we were trading on their name or leading other parties to believe that we were BashCo. In or around the time of our first contact with BashCo, they were in the midst of paying a bride $18,000 because Sierra decided that she didn't want to go to that bride's wedding and instead wanted to go to a higher paying and larger corporate events. And funny enough, she was simultaneously going hundreds of thousands of dollars over budget for that same corporate benefactor. That behavior ultimately played a role in that company distancing itself from Sierra. Combine that with the negative stories that we've heard people come out and tell, and the last thing we would have ever wanted to do is trade on their name.
Okay, right, let's actually take a read through some of the things I've just popped up on screen here. So this first screenshot is because Chris is saying Sierra had to pay a bride $18,000 because she no longer wanted to go to a wedding and work on, like, a big corporate event instead. So the messages read, she had an old bride almost sue her. I think she did get sued if I remember correctly, and she had to settle. $18,000 she had to pay that bride because she lied about having COVID while she was on a blank trip and said she couldn't make the bride's wedding. Then his next screenshot popped up when Chris was talking about BashCo going, like, over budget, and the messages read, she went $320,000 over budget, not inclusive of the $362,000 that she spent on the band. Sierra went almost $200K over the budget she was given, and now there's all these issues with paying Blueprint, and they've sent us the invoices. We paid $50K to the projection mapping on the outside of the building. I just sent Blank a note and said there's some questionable things on that refunds list. Honestly, fuck her for putting any of us in such an uncomfortable position. And then his final screenshot was talking about this company distancing themselves from BashCo, and it reads, I just can't foresee us as a top ad agency doing nothing, some huge blow up, knock down, drag out of her. I don't know if I'm being stupid, but I don't know what that means. I am on a very strict authority that if blank card is being charged by Sierra ever again, that blank and blank must be looped in, so no more approval / non-approval with her anymore on the blank side regarding blank. She will use one excuse or two at most. I wholeheartedly say this, blank needs to sue her. She will literally keep doing this to so many others if she's not sued. She's done this before, and that's why she changed her email a while back. She knows it's not y'all, it's Sierra and her inability to listen to blank. She's going to pull some blank told me to do it shit. Honestly, I just hope from the blank side we get our shit and break up with her quietly to keep the drama on the low. I just know how spiteful and nasty she can be, and I don't want her throwing my name around and blaming me for her actions. There is no way you can go down for how she runs her business / card she just has on file to do whatever with. Okay, so So reading these messages, there's a lot of context missing. I'm a little confused as what's going on, but this is what he's showing on screen. Now, in a second video that Chris uploaded, he wanted to talk about what has happened since his video, and he goes on to say that he has been told to take down the videos that are regarding the lawsuit, and also mentions that Sierra hasn't made a public statement since.
First off, they've asked us to take all content related to the lawsuit down, and they also have not made a public response. While both sides were trying to negotiate a settlement prior to all of this posting, the conversation is stalled. And while yes, it is frustrating that they have not responded, and frankly that they've acted like they didn't kick off this entire series of events.
Chris then goes on to explain that they are paying for this lawsuit out of pocket, and says that sharing this is their strongest tool for promoting justice.
Now, part of the reason why I'm sharing this is because unlike the Selfs, who have gone through 5 law firms and seem to have had the majority of their legal bills covered by their insurance, we have been forced to defend our business against untrue claims out of pocket. That's because unfortunately, business insurance rarely covers the one who's doing the suing. Now, while we weren't the one who made this dispute public, it's become clear since then that one of the strongest tools we have for promoting justice is sharing about this. And by continuing to share, we hope that they'll stop doubling down, accept accountability, and help us all avoid a trial so that we can get the legal fees and damages that we believe we're entitled to.
And now at this point in the video, Chris then goes on to give his thoughts on Sierra launching this new business.
While the Selfs didn't publicly respond this week, they did go ahead with the launch of their new brand. Part of that launch was a strategy of sending PR to large influencers who did rep their brand. To be frank, going into this, they had some really big connections, and they definitely leveraged that to assist their launch. And they've also leveraged those connections to try and keep us down. And I just want to say to those influencers or connections who are defending Sierra or repping her brand, it is a disservice to Christians who I really feel truly awful for. Continuing to stand by someone who has no interest in Jesus other than what he can do for her is really just sad. I feel like non-Christians are going to look at this and they're eventually going to figure out what's actually going on here. And at the end of the day, no matter how much wearing a sweatshirt with Jesus's name on it might advance somebody's faith conversation, realizing who Sierra actually is and what she stands for will do even more to walk that back.
And that seems to be all the updates we have at this point. Like I said, Sierra hasn't actually responded to any of this publicly that we can see. I don't know if there is going to be a response. I thought there probably would have been by now, since, like, you know, they obviously made the first video talking about it. I thought they would want to respond to Chris' video, but they haven't yet. Obviously, it is being handled legally, and from what we're seeing here, it looks like this is gonna go further, and it doesn't seem like it's stopping anytime soon. So yeah, with this new information, I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Have your thoughts changed since the last video? Have your opinions that you already had been strengthened because of this? Let me know any of your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I'm gonna leave it there. So if you did enjoy, please do leave a like down below, subscribe if you are new, and until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, goodbye.